Welcome, everyone, to Manifesting with Meg Conversations with Extraordinary People, Season 7, the year of live, laugh, love, and play. Today, I have special guest, Valerie Taylor, and our episode number 132 is Dare to Do Great Things. So, we are here today to do great things. Valerie, are you ready with me?
I sure am,
Out there,
Meg.
and let me introduce all of you to beautiful Valerie Taylor. She is the award-winning author of the romantic comedy trilogy, What's Not Said, What's Not True, and What's Not Lost. Encouraged by her readers, she's now created a cozy mystery series, spinning one of the secondary characters in What's Not Lost into a role of amateur sleuth in A Whale of a Murder, a Venus Bixby Mystery. It's why we're here today. Not just why, it's one of the things why we're here today to talk about. When she's not writing or reading, she enjoys practicing Tai Chi. Yes, don't mess with her. And being an expert sports spectator. One person that my family would definitely get along with. She now resides in Shelton, Connecticut, returning there after enjoying some of her best years of her life in Boston and Seattle. And no doubt there are more best years to come. Welcome, Valerie, to the show. Thank you for joining me again.
Thank you, Meg. I'm so glad to be here. I'm thinking that I should go back to our first time together and watch that again. And after we do this session and see kind of if my story is the same or if it's changed or.
Well, I do like to think that we're always in the process of becoming, right? Becoming who we are, from that acorn seed to the beautiful tree that we've all become, as beautiful as we can possibly be. So I'm sure things have changed since then, as they often do. We don't really notice because our lives are so up front and center rather than standing back and looking at the beautiful painting that we've all created. So even coming up to your mystery series, you're 4 books in, Valerie. I mean, my God.
How did that happen?
That's the beautiful thing about creativity, is that we always surprise ourselves as we keep getting interested and curious around what shows up in our minds, for sure.
Right.
That's what's really wonderful about your book. You took a detail from the What's Not series, and now you've taken that character into a whole new world of murder and mystery. So,
And you know what is really, I kind of had this aha moment last week when I was thinking about how I described the new book and everything. And I realized that, Venus Bixby indeed is a character in What's Not Lost, a secondary character. But I loved her so much that I decided that she needed to have her own story. And so when I wrote the first book, A Whale of a Murder, I had What's Not Lost. The whole What's Not trilogy takes place like in 2019, 2020. So when I wrote A Whale of a Murder, I actually had to go back 10 years in order to build Venus's story.
oh, wow.
And so what the aha moment was that I've actually the cozy mystery now is kind of like a prequel to the What's Not True series.
Really?
Yes.
So back to the whole theme of our interview today is dare to do great things. And the quote that we're referring to is, nothing splendid has ever been achieved except by those who dared believe that something inside them was superior to circumstance. And that's by Bruce Barton, American author and politician. And, it goes back to the fact that we're all born with the ability to nurture ourselves beyond any hurdle or challenge that life presents. And certainly when we have these little tiny dreams with possibilities, we're like, oh, I don't know how I'm ever going to get this done or how I'm ever going to accomplish that. But the whole thing is that we start getting curious around the little tips or the clues that comes and show up in our life every day. Literally are, excelling in the whole writing world. So tell me, what are your thoughts about this, especially around the idea that the key to bliss today is dare to do great, creative, amazing things?
And also, you talk about awakening creativity, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And so I really kind of relate to that because I awoke at 4 a.m. this morning. not in anticipation of our session together, but because there was this swirling short description of the second book going through my mind. And, I kept saying the first sentence and then the second sentence and then the third sentence. And did I write it down? Did I speak it into my iPhone that's sitting next to me? No.
I love that.
I get up at 5 and I came downstairs and did a few things, and then I sat down and did 1 or 2 drafts of it. So creativity can awaken at any time of day and wherever you are. But I would also want to talk about how you just mentioned how we have the ability to nurture ourselves beyond any hurdle or challenge that we face. And I relate to that because I was a foster child for the first 7 years of my life, and that it shaped me and had to have shaped me into who I am, but it didn't stop me.
Mm.
Okay. And I'm introverted. People that know me can't believe that, but but I truly am. But I am confident in who I am. And so I think that I throughout my life I have been able to nurture myself because there was nobody else there to do that for me. Um, and I don't believe in failure, which has the word fail and failure are really trigger words for me. And I know that there are some views that say, you should embrace failure and, take it as a way to positivity, et cetera. And I'm like, eh.
Because I think that really what is dynamic about you is the fact that you do come across incredibly confident. And I think that that's really necessary when you're in a entire field where you can question whether or not what you're doing is quote unquote good, or whether you're going to get the external approval from the author or the readers out there to continue to do what you do. But I think that the fact that you're so confident into the story and what you have to offer, like you said, paying attention to the genius that comes through you when you awaken to your creativity. Maybe you'll capture it, maybe you won't, but it's still there and you recognize that. So tell me a little bit about the fact that you are that confident person and how it's really directed this path, this writing path that you've been on.
Um, I think that I view a lot of things in my life as a challenge. And after I had written the What's Not trilogy and I had listened to my readers encouraging me to write a cozy mystery, and honestly, I hadn't, other than Agatha Christie, I don't think I'd read many cozy mysteries in my life. And
I
so
don't
I
think I've ever heard the words cozy mystery. Interesting word.
murder she wrote, right? And
Okay.
and so
Yes.
I had to do a lot of research, but what really helped me was the challenge of it all. That I took a course, an online course of how to write a cozy mystery, and I learned that it was going to be a lot harder than writing a romantic comedy.
How so though, really? Because first of all, the fact that you took a course, I love that there's so much out there. You can take a course for that, right? We've always said you can take a course for that. But the fact that you're saying that there's a challenge between the romantic novel versus the cozy mystery novel is interesting. Do you think that's because of the who you are that you bring to the page, or is it because of the genre is completely different?
I think it's the genre
Mm.
because for me, writing What's Not Said, that was supposed to be my one and only great American novel. I was telling a story that I had carried around in my head for a long time, where I knew the ending, and so I had to kind of build the story. But the way that I wrote that trilogy was to keep asking what if questions. What if this happened? What if she said this? What if he went there? What if so and so showed up? What if what if someone died? You know, what if I don't want to give away the spoilers? You know? But with a cozy mystery, okay, you have very defined process of, you know, you have to have a sleuth, you have to have a detective,
Mhm.
you have to have a murderer, you have to have a victim, you have to have red herrings, you have
Mm.
to have a cast of characters who could all be suspects, and then you have to tie it all up and do the big reveal. The What's Not
Yeah.
trilogy takes place in Boston and then Venice and then Paris and Greece, right? So, and I've been to all those places. And so I was able to bring in my experiences and my love of the Red Sox. But in a cozy, they really almost prefer, I think, a fictional town. So I had to do world building, which was a term to me that was totally foreign. And so I did a lot of research on that. But A Whale of a Murder takes place in a fictional town, a fictional whaling town between Providence and Cape Cod. So even though it's fictional, it's based in Massachusetts in reality. And New Bedford, Massachusetts really is what inspired me to create this town.
To that point, I find it super interesting that, one of the things that a writer will think about is that how many ways that you can attract a reader. And the fact of the matter is place is such a distinctive entity, a character in and of itself in a book, what you're pointing out as well. So, the interesting thing is that people have interest because they want to go back to
Mhm.
that place that they remember well, or like maybe because it reminds them of where they live.
I'm very heartened that numerous readers have said they love the setting. I was like, phew.
Well, you've had a lot of really positive comments with regard to your all books. And one of the things that I love about the show is also that we contemplate what are those inspirational things that get us going, get us up in the morning and, as authors, as people, even, as you, my extraordinary guest, will bring to the table. First one today, I love that you use her. Instinct is a marvelous thing. It can neither be explained nor ignored. That's Agatha Christie. And of course, your love for cats comes through on the visual. So tell me a little bit about this one.
So that you're right. It kind of combined two things. It combined cats, which there was a cat in the trilogy, and then there are two cats because Venus has two cats in A Whale of a Murder. And so also, a nod to Agatha for all her inspiration to all of us writers. But instinct has played an important role in my life. And I think I have always felt, I'm a Scorpio, okay? So, we're kind of mysterious and, we suspect a lot of different things. But, I've always felt that I've had this sixth sense that I could not define. When I was growing up, often my mother, when I did finally go back to live with her, um, she would say to me, "So, we're going over to Aunt Evelyn's for dinner tonight. What do you think is going to happen when so and so walks in, or whatever?" I'm just making that up. And I'd say, "Mom, it doesn't work that way." It would be more like, I really think, we'd be in a restaurant, and I'd say to myself, somebody's going to drop a dish, and seconds later, a dish would drop. So, I've got these powers that I, I, in some ways, I think my main protagonists in both of the series, um, espouse a little bit of that as well.
So the
So
cool thing is that you're literally in the right genre. That if that's something like a mystery genre, so you can play with all those wonderful
right,
gifts that you have.
right.
Well, this next one is Big Sisters Are the Crabgrass in the Lawn of Life. This is Charles M. Schultz, we know the Peanuts fame, American cartoonist. Well, I love it. Big Sister. So tell me what this means to you.
So I have a big sister, and she can kind of really get under my skin. She's very opinionated, and so we bat heads every once in a while. But we're closer now than when we were growing up, and so that's lovely. So we need big sisters in our lives, but also Venus has a sister. It's not a big sister because they're twins, but Sherry, Venus's sister, is her kind of her alter ego. She gets into under Venus's skin, and sometimes like I said earlier, I think that sometimes I say things. I open my mouth and insert my foot. Well, that's kind of what Sherry does. That Venus thinks that she's all knowing, and then Sherry comes in and kind of straightens her out. So
The characters that we create certainly have elements of the people in our lives for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
That's very cool. And then we have the final one. The whales do not sing because they have an answer. They sing because they have a song. I love this one. Gregory Colbert, photographer and filmmaker. And it's a beautiful picture of a whale singing. So tell me
So,
what this.
so I had to find obviously a quote that had to do with whales, and so I really there were several in fact, but I thought, how appropriate is this? And then, I'm one of these people, like I said, I have this sixth sense, but I also love connections and coincidences, because it was like the day after I chose this one, it was like it popped up in my email or my social media or something, a quote by F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Oh, really?
It says, "You don't write because you want to say something. You write because you've got something to say."
Oh,
So Gregory Colbert, who did this whale quote, I think, did he paraphrase
wow.
Fitzgerald? And, I just think that the combination of the two quotes really means to me that writing is
Mm.
like an outlet for our soul.
Ah, I love it.
I also think Fitzgerald's quote I have read probably 20 times because I'm really trying to understand it.
Oh, I love that.
I think that sometimes, writers, poets, they say things I don't, because I write very almost like the way I talk, okay? But so many writers and poets will say things that we really don't get
Mm.
until much later. In fact, speaking of whales, when I was in high school,
Mhm.
of course, we read Moby Dick, right?
Of course.
Of course. And I kind of fought with my English teacher every step of the way because I just didn't believe a darn thing. I mean, that's how pragmatic I am,
Yeah.
So this whole notion of my writing a cozy based in a whaling town and naming the book the way that I did probably stems all the way back until my junior year in high school.
Mhm.
So what I like to tell people is that it's a story that's based in a fictional town situated between Providence and the Cape in Massachusetts. And it's about a woman named Venus Bixby who, on the morning of her 50th birthday, goes to the Whaling Museum to set up for her party. There, she stumbles over a pair of orange platform shoes and breaks her thumb. Then she discovers that the shoes are attached to the manager of the Whaling Museum's gift shop. So she becomes both a sleuth and a suspect in the murder. And so the question is, will she be able to sing and dance at her birthday party, or will they haul her and her thumb off in handcuffs? So I should also say that Venus owns an oldies music store in combination with a cookie bakery.
Oh, great.
And so at the end of the book, there is a playlist that has 32 songs in it. My trilogy each has a playlist in the back, but this one I went crazy with. There are recipes, cookies, and other baked good recipes in the back. So people are commenting on that. They really enjoy the extra content, which I was really surprised about.
Wow, that's great. But what was your intention today when you saw? I ask you, of course, always. Oh, I got to get you on my show again because you have a new book to offer, and there's so much wonderful. You're a really wonderful writer. You definitely are, and you bring a lot, like I said, to the storytelling. And I always tell my children and anyone who listens to me, because that's my something to say, make sure you come up with a good story in life because otherwise, that's the whole how we talk to each other. That's how we engage each other, is through the wonderful telling of stories.
So I would say that what I have kind of learned about myself would be my intention.
Yeah.
And that is that you have to know thyself. I know what your strengths and what your weaknesses are, and be able to move with great vigor with your strengths, but know when you need to reach out to others to strengthen your weaknesses, if I could say it that way, but also to love thyself. That what has occurred in our past life, most often, especially in those formative years, were not in our control. And do I like what I've become? And what I have become over the years, from my childhood through a short marriage and divorce, and then a longer marriage and divorce, and 2 children, and relocating from Connecticut out to Seattle, and being, climbing the corporate ladder, if you will, managing people sometimes, not others, and then moving back and retiring and becoming an author. I've become a much more kind person. I think that I applied my expectations onto other people, and that's not always a wise thing to do, because we all have our own backstory, and we don't always know what that is. So I think perhaps, I don't know if it's because of my granddaughter, who I spend a great deal of time with these days, and all that I am trying to influence her, as she's in 5th grade, and there are mean girls in the class. I mean, I'm always talking about, we don't hate, we are kind, we apologize. Even though you're mad at someone today, you'll be friends tomorrow.
Oh, you hope so. Oh, you hope so.
Right. But kindness, I think, is what I've become. Kinder is what I've become over the years.
What number in the book did you choose?
It's page 206, July 6th. So I chose this for a number of reasons. One is that a whale of a murder kind of takes place over July 4th weekend. So I went into the Julys, right?
That makes sense.
And also the quote that's here is from Abraham Lincoln.
Mm.
And I coincidentally am finishing up. I have about an hour left on the audiobook of Eric Larson's latest book, The Demon of Unrest, which is about the start of the Civil War. He wrote it. It's nonfiction, and he actually was in the midst of writing it when January 6th happened. And so
Wow.
he refers to that at the very beginning of the book. But that there's a quote here from Abraham Lincoln. We can complain because rose bushes have thorns, or rejoice because thorn bushes have roses. So maybe I'm a rose because in my life I had thorns. And so now I think I smell sweeter than I ever have before.
Back to what you're saying now with regard to, how we show up being, sweeter, but you do have a rose on one of your covers. I will mention that for sure.
That is true.
Theme for that day.
Oh, it's a rejoice in the joy that lies before you. And that's meaningful too, because each of us, we don't know what lies into tomorrow, correct?
Yeah.
But I feel that if I maintain a positive attitude about my life, every little thing's going to be okay, And
That's great.
I think I'm much older than you are, Meg, and it's kind of the good and the bad news about social media is that every day we see stories about people passing, right?
Yeah.
And now, recently, some close friends of mine have passed suddenly, and I think that it's kind of it's not just a wake up call, but it's a shock to the system, and it's like, you get up every morning and you go to bed every night, and you really need to thank whatever superior being you thank for the day that you've had, and hopefully for the next day that you have.
Yeah, it says we're not just lucky, we're blessed in many aspects to have that day to live through and have those stories to, be able to make or, tell, or however that looks to you. It's really special about you. And I think that, a lot of the wisdom that does come from you is that you're very generous in how you live your life. And I think that really does speak to the whole notion that you are living a kinder life. About that to your writing as well, when it comes to the whole relationship building, and especially from your What's Not series for sure. Tell me a little bit about, once again, where they can find this book and where they can find you if they want to invite you to have those conversations, to actually be in your presence, perhaps on a Zoom or in person.
That would be great. I do book club meetings on Zoom or in person if they're in Connecticut. So A Whale of a Murder, a Venus Bixby Mystery is both in paperback and on Kindle, but it can be ordered or in libraries. Can
But
order
your website is Valerie Taylor author.
author.com.
So ValeRieTaylor.com. COM. Those are for those in the podcast world who are listening.
All right.
With that, one of the things I want to say is that you've manifested 4 books already in your world. I mean, I know that you haven't stopped. This is another trilogy in the making, and The Whale of a Murder is the first. How do you inspire others by virtue of, telling your story to intrigue them into maybe taking on the tools to help them manifest a life that they always dreamed about?
Well, I think that I'm just very kind of normal.
Is that what we're calling ourselves now? I don't know about that.
Yes. Like when I meet people at book fairs, craft fairs, or whatever, and I I don't just immediately, start talking about my book. I have a conversation, get to know them, look, in 1 minute, right?
I'd like to change the word, if I may, from normal to delightful. You are delightful, Valerie. That is very much more appropriate, I think, in this conversation.
So I'm not wealthy, I live a delightful life. And I think, certainly having an 11-year-old granddaughter, grounds me in what's important in life, because she's like my reason to be. I mean, she's why I get up every morning. And in fact, she's, really kind of engaged in my author journey. I mean, there's a Cecilia in every one of my books. And she helps me name characters. And, when I'm doing plotting, she, wants to say, well, they should do this or they should do that, and she helps me keep, the cozy mystery in, PG-13.
That's actually very important because you will get rated in the world of reviews, So
Yeah, what's not said is more an R. The other two are more PG, I guess. But A Whale of a Murder certainly is maybe G. And that was hard for me. I mean, because,
it's true.
you know, anyway, so I
You've got a salacious story to tell out there for sure.
there is a romance in it, because I cannot
Can't keep the romance out.
not have a romance.
Yeah.
So that's.
I love that, and for certain, I think that for many people out there who have grandchildren, engaging them into this world of stories, is going to leave perhaps a legacy of reading for them. And I think that's really something that I hope is not lost, so to speak. I hope that people are intrigued by the written word still, because that literally does expand your brain in such a way that you're not ignorant. You have a capacity to be curious and open-minded, and storytelling is the way we've communicated since the caveman times. It doesn't matter that it's no longer in pictures. It's always happening. It's our way of communicating with each other.
One of the things that I've done is I'm trying to sort through the 1,000 books I probably have. I've started a stack in a closet of books, important books that I want to pass on to Cecilia, and certainly the Magical Guide to Bliss is part of that, and Butterfly Awakens is part of that as well, because I think that there are some really important and meaningful stories. I'll just say, what is it? Kristen Hanna's The Woman, is something that, I think men and women should read, because otherwise, they're going to forget, what happened during the Vietnam War. And I think it's important. So that's another thing that I am doing to manifest.
So not only are you delightful, but like I said, very profound, because I think it's important that, what you just said right there, you need to remind people where we've come from, so we know that we can go to a better place. And I think that the stories that we write, the stories that have been told, the important books of our time, what you said there, and that you're passing it on to your granddaughter, is just incredibly special, and just so Valerie, so you. So I remember, I think that the last time that you were on here, your inspiration may have something to done with, kindness, for sure, because that is clearly you. But today, what would that final inspiration be for everybody listening to you, perhaps, thinking, oh, I'm going to write my own mystery, or, oh my goodness, I want to read something amazing, or just, what is your final inspiration for all of us today?
So I think about more and more often about gratitude. And I don't just mean that superfluously, because as I had, said that, my life has not been smooth, and I have a very small family, but through authoring, I have an expansive network of friends, you especially, and others. So, I mean, who knew when I retired 8 years ago that I'd be where I am today? And I am very thankful for being able to do what I do and to share it with, with people who are enjoying it and maybe will get a laugh out of
Yeah.
it. Because I do write with a lot of humor and snarkiness, and because that's kind of who I am. But I am also grateful, so grateful to you, Meg, because of, your books and your story, and you're just such an inspiration that when things are gloomy or gray, which they've been a lot in Connecticut lately, to pick up the magical guide to bliss and to be inspired by one of the days in there. So I thank you
Yeah, thank you.
for all of that and for this. I mean, you're amazing. I don't know how you do it.
I, well, it's funny because I will say this, I have been asked to interview a lot of different people, but I get to pick who I get to interview. And I like the storytellers, and I like the ones that are delightful, and I like the ones that are profound and smart and sassy and, have so much snarkiness. And, because it actually keeps me moving in the right direction in my life, because I really have to know that I'm not alone. And I think that as we walk this path, we all pick the people we want to be in our quote unquote tribe, because honestly, it makes it more joyous. And I'm looking for more of the simple joys. And these are the simple joys, having these kind of conversations from extraordinary people like you, Valerie, that really can light someone's life by virtue of just picking up your book, hearing to what you have to say, just some very wonderful gratitude components, that come to the fore. These are really things that get me going. So we all do what feeds our soul. And that was what you spoke to at the outset, feeding our soul, because that is like how we awaken to the lives that we want, which is really something that I want to do.
Can I tell one more story? Because
Oh,
you just reminded me when you kind of talked about inspired and motivation. I went to a book talk the other day at an independent bookstore over in Danbury, Connecticut. It's the only independent bookstore in the city, and it's very tiny and it's not easy to find, but people are finding it. But the author that was talking is a woman named B.B. Jackson, and she's well into her 80s. And she had just about finished reading A Whale of a Murder, which she had bought in April. And she just was going on about all the different plot points and characters in Whale of a Murder. And, just her book talk was so inspiring. And I thought, and I get up every day and I say, why am I working so hard? And then I meet this woman and I'm thinking, I've got another good 10 years or more doing this. So you just never know. And I walked away from that being, like pumped, and so I said, yeah, I can do this. I can do this.
Well, I know that there are many people out there who see you, Valerie, and they see all of the wonderful gifts that you have to offer this world. And if we have 20 more years, we're luckier, with you. So I say, keep going, do what you're here to do, shine your beautiful light, keep publishing wonderful books like The Whale of a Murder. I say go out there, all of you, and go get What's Not series, because that is also a wonderful, even if that summer beach read, my God, it'll go through them all and you'll be like, and I want more, and I want more. And then of course, if you're looking for a new mystery, a cozy mystery, like she said, Whale of a Murder is something I would definitely recommend. And yes, Lee, we all see her. And thank you guys for all being here. Certainly I am grateful for my audience. All of you bring so much beauty to this arena, all of us together manifesting. I feel like it's a conversation with not just you, Valerie, but so many other people who need to hear your message and also what they bring to the table as well. So I want to thank you profusely for your time, certainly. And I say to I feel incredibly, like I said, blessed, not just lucky. I'll give you the last word on our season 7 Live, Laugh, Love, and Play in the month of awakening creativity this May. And dare to dream, dare to do great things. What is the final word you leave with us today?
I would say 2 things. Don't wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I would say, do not leave dirty dishes in your sink overnight.
Okay. I do like that, man.
That's what I, because that way you can get up and start the day nice and fresh.
It's like a blank page you wake up to every morning where
Yes.
it's just clean,
Yeah.
fresh, and you get to write whatever you want on it, not distracted by the garbage. I love that you said that. Thank you so much,
Thank
Val, for
you,
everything. You're
I
the best.
totally.
I say to all of you out there, it's time to manifest, living fully, loving intently, laughing more certainly, and of course, finding ways to play. Please go visit Val if she's out there and check out her webpage as well as her Facebook page and social media. I really believe in all of you guys. We're all here to dazzle, especially if it gets a little too dark. Let's all bring a little light to shine bright. It's humor, love, gratitude, and all of you. I love you, Val. You have a great day, everybody. To you too.